Look at him, eating whatever he wants, never gaining a pound, while I'm stuck with the boring special and can't lose an ounce.
How's your lunch, man?
Amazing. Yours?
So good.
Oh, I'm so happy for you.
Cool, buddy.
Weight loss isn't fair, but Mochi Health is. The affordable GLP-1 source that can fix your frustration with food.
So, same time next week?
No!
Definitely.
And your friends. Learn more at joinmochi.com. Mochi members have access to licensed physicians and nutritionists. Results may vary.
You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, we'll give you something to brag about. Like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today. DSW. Let us surprise you.
Voices for Justice is a podcast that uses adult language and discusses sensitive and potentially triggering topics, including violence, abuse, and murder. This podcast may not be appropriate for younger audiences. All parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Some names have been changed or omitted per their request or for safety purposes. Listener discretion is advised.
My name is Sarah Turney, and this is Voices for Justice. Today I'm discussing the case of Cherrie Mahan. First, Have You Seen Me, Child, Still Lost? That's the 2005 Lancaster New Era newspaper article about 8-year-old Cherrie Mahan that really got to me. If you don't know what they mean by the phrase, "Have you seen me, child?" they're referring to the program from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, in partnership with media company Veracast and the U.S. Postal Service, that features the missing in tiny snippets in newspapers, or more often, adverts now. You probably get them in your mailbox without even noticing them. They're just tiny 1-inch horizontal features, usually on the back page of Red Plum ad booklets. It typically features a picture of the missing person, key details like their name, height, weight, where they're missing from, and who to contact with information. Oftentimes, that's alongside an age-progressed photo to estimate what they might look like today. It's the only program that helps share information about my missing sister Alyssa in the first few years that she went missing. So when I saw this article, I knew that I, in part, had Cherrie to thank for that. Behind most major legislation or programs to help the missing, specifically missing children, there's a child who isn't here today that inspired said program. Adam Walsh in Code Adam, Amber Hagerman and the Amber Alert, Eitan Pates and National Missing Children's Day, usually very well-known names, and unfortunately, many cases without resolutions. So when I went searching for information about Cherrie Mahan, the first Have You Seen Me child, I was stunned to find out that there was nowhere near as much information about her as Adam, Amber, or really countless cases of other missing children. In fact, if you search Cherrie's name on YouTube, it's dominated by a set of psychic sisters determined to find her, alongside a handful of short videos about the case, mostly featuring older interviews of her mom Janice begging for her safe return. In short, I knew I wanted to help. I knew that this community could help get the word out about Cherrie's case, because it's not just me that holds out hope that this can be solved. Law enforcement says that they're prepared to keep searching for Cherrie until 2085, literally 100 years after she went missing in 1985. And I know that may seem overly hopeful to some, but there are some major clues in this case that with just one solid witness or a lead could finally lead to answers for Cherrie and her family. It's time to bring the first Have You Seen Me child home. This is the case of Cherrie Mahan. It's Friday, February 22nd, 1985 in Winfield Township, Pennsylvania. And 8-year-old Cherrie Mahan is looking forward to going to her friend Jennifer's 10th birthday party after school. The final bell rings for her 3rd grade class, and Cherrie heads to her school bus to get home and get ready for the party. At about 4:10 p.m., Cherrie and 3 of her classmates get off the bus at their regular stop on Cornplanter Road. This is just around the corner from Cherrie's home. A neighbor named Debbie Bark is there too. She's waiting in her car for her 2 kids and another child she agreed to pick up from the bus stop. Debbie's there every day, and recognizes Cherrie. She sees her get off the bus and kind of play and dawdle with the other kids. Now, normally, Cherrie's mother, Janice McKinney, or her stepfather, Leroy McKinney, walked to the bus stop to meet Cherrie for the short walk back to their home. While news reports have vastly differed about the distance, the bus stop appears to have been no further than 100 to 150 yards away from Cherrie's driveway. Basically, it's just around a slight bend in the road, with a long driveway uphill to the home. Winfield Township is in Butler County, and it's about 30 miles north of Pittsburgh. It was and still is a rural area with a low crime rate and a population of just a few thousand people. And though snow was on the ground, the weather was good that day, so the McKinneys decided to let Cherrie walk the short distance home by herself. And when I say the bus stop is close, I mean it is very close. So close that Janice and Leroy hear it pull up and hear the kids get off the bus. They figure Cherrie will be walking up the driveway in a matter of minutes. But after about 5 or 10 minutes, Cherrie still hasn't come home, and they start to get worried. They aren't really worried that anything major happened to her at this point, just that maybe she slipped on the snow and fell, got preoccupied playing with friends, or could have been waiting for one of them to come get her like they normally did. So Leroy walks down the driveway and around the corner to check. But Cherrie isn't there. By 4:30 p.m., Cherrie's parents start looking around the area for her and making calls to see where she could be. They're definitely concerned, but they're not panicking just yet. They figure maybe Cherrie went to a friend's house, or was just enjoying the better weather outside with the kids from the bus stop. Again, very small town, low crime rate. The thought that something terrible could have happened just wasn't top of mind. But within the hour, they realize that something could be very wrong. And at the very least, they're going to need some help to find her, so they finally call the police. Officers from the local police authority, Butler Barracks, responded, and the searches for Cherrie began. Local police are joined by Pennsylvania State Police, the FBI, around 250 volunteers, bloodhounds, and helicopters to look for Cherrie. Her friend Jennifer's birthday party was even canceled so parents could join in the search. It's an all-hands-on-deck situation. But there was just no trace of her. The bloodhounds couldn't pick up the trail, and while investigators were able to find tracks from vehicles in the snow, they couldn't find any tracks from Cherrie. So all they can conclude at this point is that it seems like she didn't get very far from the bus stop. Janice has been quoted as saying it was like the earth just opened up and swallowed Cherrie. While physical searches for Cherrie were not successful, investigators were able to find one major lead after interviewing witnesses at the bus stop, and this lead remains the most critical in this case nearly 40 years later. This episode of Voices for Justice is brought to you by Quince. I've been trying to be more intentional about what I wear each day. I'm leaning into pieces that feel effortless, comfortable, and still put together, and Quince has been my go-to. The fabrics feel elevated, the fits are flattering, and everything just works without overthinking it. They use premium materials like 100% European linen, organic cotton, and ultra-soft denim. And the best part? Everything is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality and craftsmanship, not brand markup. I recently just ordered their tiered linen dress, of course in black. I wanted to pair it with one of my favorite pairs of brown wedges. The problem was, I didn't have a brown purse. So I got that from Quince too. It's one of my favorite outfits. It's easy, effortless, and feels amazing, especially as we're getting a little bit warmer here in Phoenix. Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/justice for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/justice for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/justice.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why customers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
In addition to the usual vehicles at the bus stop on the day Cherrie went missing, witnesses also report seeing a distinct van there that day. It's been described as a blue or green 1970s, possibly 1976 Dodge van, with a large mural of a snowy mountain and a skier on the side. According to reporting by Bianca Hillier from NBC News, Cherrie's classmates on the bus remember seeing the van following the school bus that day. Debbie Bark, the woman who saw Cherrie while she was waiting to pick up other kids, remembers seeing the van in her rearview mirror, as does her son. She told local reporters, quote, "I sat in the car and watched the kids get off. They played for a while. I made sure Cherrie had walked past the car, then I drove away. I caught a glimpse of the blue van in the mirror. It was right behind me. My son saw the van too." It's worth noting that Cherrie was not seen entering this van or speaking with the driver. I've seen some misinformation around this, so I just want to be very clear. Now, aside from the van, witnesses state that there was a blue car seen parked in a driveway near the bus stop, but no further description has been provided. And I wasn't able to find an update on this aside from psychics believing the car may have been involved. I have to assume that the police were able to track down who it was, because as I was researching this case, the car was really just a small side note that was barely ever mentioned. But that is just speculation. So the million-dollar question is, who was driving the van with the mural on it? Well, despite this van sounding very unique, according to State Trooper at Butler Barracks, Maryland Stackhouse, they found more than 2,000 registrations of vehicles with similar murals. Now, I am not a car person, but I have to try to be for this podcast, so I did some digging on these older 1970s vans. And while I couldn't quite find a model with a ski mural that came pre-painted on vans, I do know that painting on your van or getting it painted was not totally uncommon during this time. In my research, I found vans with all sorts of things painted on them. Names, bad words, murals of horses. I mean, if you can think of it, it's probably been painted on the side of an old van. In fact, Mental Floss has a great piece about this entire phenomenon of custom-painted vans if you're so inclined to go down that rabbit hole. The point is, while it seems like this van would be very unique and easy to find, it just wasn't. Vans matching the description were pulled over all around the state, and a sketch of what it might have looked like was distributed across the country, but they still weren't able to pinpoint the exact vehicle seen on the day Cherrie went missing. Not long after, there were dozens of incidents reported of similar-looking vans either stalking or attempting to abduct typically school-age girls. Just about a month after Cherrie went missing, on March 27, 1985, a man described as heavyset and in his 30s with dark hair was reported as likely trying to abduct a 12-year-old from her bus stop. He apparently approached her, asked if she wanted a ride to school, and then panicked and sped away when he saw the school bus approaching. And there was another incident of a man in a van chasing two 12-year-old girls in August of 1985, but no connection to Cherrie was ever made. This van was their biggest lead, and it really didn't go anywhere. Since her disappearance, Cherrie's case really has become a precedent case. Her pictures printed on Prince brand spaghetti boxes. Truckers helped distribute her flyers alongside the sketch of the van as far and wide as they could. And Cherrie becomes the first ever child to be featured in the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's now infamous Have You Seen Me program in 1985. Like I mentioned at the top of this episode, even if you aren't familiar with this program, you've probably seen these little ads before. Back in 1985, it was mostly a partnership with the Postal Service to deliver postcards. That evolved into newspaper features, and nowadays more often on Red Plum adverts you get in your mailbox. According to the company that distributes these flyers, Veracast, these typically reach 9 out of 10 households each week, both online and in print. It's a low barrier to entry program that only needs a photo and some information to help spread the word. And it works. I can't tell you how many people over the years have contacted me to let me know that they've seen my sister in one of those ads. And that all started with Cherrie. But despite all these efforts, the spaghetti boxes, the flyers, the postcards, the implementation of this entire program, there was very little movement in Cherrie's case. But people were passionate. By April 1985, neighbors helped raise over $39,000 to offer as a reward. When you account for inflation, that would be over $100,000 today. That is a massive reward. And an additional $10,000 was offered by local business American Hardware Supply Co. as well. This offer was good for 18 months, and if Cherrie wasn't found by then or her case wasn't resolved, that money would be donated. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. By Christmas 1986, Janice and Leroy move. Janice says they basically stayed in her home for a year, waiting for Cherrie to come back, and at this point, she just can't go back there. When you watch Janice's interviews, you can feel her pain. It's clear how much losing Cherrie impacted her. She says Cherrie was basically her whole world. She had her at just 16 years old, and they basically grew up together. And once Cherrie was gone, that world just fell apart. Janice says she began struggling with addiction, to the point where she sold most of her possessions to pay for drugs. And at her lowest point, she even tried to throw herself in front of a moving vehicle, but Leroy held her back. And unfortunately, Cherrie's case really does start to slow down. State Troopers Marilyn Stackhouse and Lawrence G. Hall worked her case full-time until the middle of 1987. That's when leads started to taper off, and they got reassigned to work other cases. And as these things unfortunately go sometimes, life just goes on without Cherrie. In 1989, her brother Robert was born, and Janice says because of what happened to Cherrie, she kept him very close. 5 years later, in 1994, Cherrie's classmates graduated from high school without her. And in 1998, she was legally declared dead as a technicality to release some funds. Cherrie had apparently gotten a settlement from a car accident where she'd broken her arm, about $3,500. There was also some reward fund money tied up under her name. Some of these funds were donated to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and some were put away to be given to Cherrie's brother Robert. It's reported that it took the judge less than 15 minutes to grant the request to have her legally declared dead. The law cited was rooted in colonial times, when men didn't return from war. Basically, after 7 years without hearing from the person, they could be legally declared dead. Of course, Janice says this didn't mean anyone was giving up on finding Cherrie. But unfortunately, there was very little movement in the case for quite some time after this. In 2009, she was entered into NamUs, but it wasn't until 2011 that Cherrie's name was back in the news, after investigators received new information in her case. This episode of Voices for Justice is sponsored by Chewy. If you have pets, you probably know about Chewy, and you also know that when they say that they have everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy, they're not messing around. To keep them happy, Chewy has over 100,000 products from all the brands my pets love at prices I love. To keep them healthy, Chewy offers pet prescriptions, pet insurance, telehealth vet visits, and they're even rolling out vet clinics across the country. I've been shopping with them for a very long time. And in addition to the auto-ship feature that gets the dog's food to them every single month, I also love to experiment with different treats. But I'm a bit picky. For me, it has to be high quality with simple ingredients. I recently picked up treats from Shepherd Boy Farms that are 100% just chicken breast. Popcorn and Heber are already obsessed. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order and get free shipping by going to chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney. That's chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney to save $20 on your first order with free shipping. chewpanions.chewy.com/Sarah E. Turney. Minimum purchase required. New customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details.
What they did to your family, you're lucky to make it out alive.
Streaming on Peacock.
These men are going to come after me. Taking them out is my only chance.
Put a bullet in her head.
From the co-creator of Ozark.
Looks like a family was running drugs.
Execution-style killing, it's rare for the Keys. Any leads on who they might have been running for?
The cartel killed my family. I'm gonna kill them. All of them.
MIA. Streaming now. Only on Peacock.
2011 marked 26 years since 8-year-old Cherrie Mahan went missing after being dropped off by her school bus, just around the corner from her house. And in all those 26 years, they had almost no answers. They hadn't been able to locate the van seen near her that day or identify the driver. It was just like Janice said. It was as if the world opened up and just swallowed Cherrie whole. But then her name is back in the news again, when Pennsylvania State Trooper Robert McGraw announced that there was a new lead in Cherrie's case. In an interview for CNN, he said, quote, Recently, a person contacted Pennsylvania State Police, and they have the potential to be crucial to the investigation in the future. We're highly optimistic that this lead has the potential to bring closure to Cherrie's family. Now, Trooper McGraw was very vague about this new development. This is basically all we know, and unfortunately, it doesn't seem like much has come of it. Or if it has, the police aren't telling us. That same year, investigators were also hopeful over what I think is another very different tip. Though honestly, given how tight-lipped the police have been, it could be the same tip, just scooped by the local news. Now, let me explain. This tip was that Cherrie might still be alive and living in Michigan. And this appears to have come from a random tipster, not anyone who knew Cherrie or her family directly. But they believed Cherrie was alive and well. And investigators were able to connect it to some other tips they'd gotten in the past. Just a few months after Cherrie went missing, a woman reported seeing a girl matching her description in a van similar to the one seen at her bus stop at a high school track meet in Michigan. She does call in the tip right away, but she says that no one ever followed up. But now, with this new tip of Cherrie living in Michigan, they revisited this woman's claims and worked to identify the woman that the tipster says may be Cherrie Mahan. Now, this woman did deny being Cherrie, but of course authorities didn't leave it at just that. They reviewed a copy of her birth certificate, went to the high school she graduated from, and looked at photos of her dating back to kindergarten. What we don't know is if they actually confirmed this using DNA. There were reports that they wanted DNA, but no reports to say that it was used to confirm that this woman was not Cherrie. But police are satisfied and say that this chapter of Cherrie's case was officially closed. By this point, Cherrie's case file was thousands of pages long and filled more than 7 boxes at the Pennsylvania State Police Department. There were all sorts of tips and sightings about Cherrie, that she was working at a Toys R Us in Buffalo, New York, that she was seen alive and well on social media, and there was a CNN feature about Cherrie pending. While, of course, tips did continue to trickle in, the case mostly just sat again for several years. That is until 2018, when, around Cherrie's birthday, Janice received a very graphic letter that outlined what happened to Cherrie. And like so many things in this case, we don't know much about this letter other than what Cherrie's mom, Janice, has revealed in her interviews. She says it was graphic and describes who killed Cherrie, why, and where her remains can be found. She also revealed that it was signed Pastor Justice. Now, obviously, this is a huge mix of emotions. It's upsetting, but it also sparks some hope that there could finally be answers about what happened to Cherrie. Janice turns the letter over to police, but nearly a year later, she says she hadn't heard back from them. When Target 11 News followed up, investigators confirmed that they had the letter and were working on it. They added that they were also working another tip that resulted in them searching a mine shaft in Butler County and a junkyard. But again, it doesn't really seem like anything came of this letter or these searches. This really is a case with a lot of ups and downs. So many promising leads that just seem to go nowhere. No suspects, no person of interest, no solid leads beyond that bus stop. Just a lot of pain and anguish for Cherrie's loved ones. And it's clear that Cherrie has left a hole in the lives of those who knew her. Janice often discusses how Cherrie missed meeting her brother, missed her high school graduation, meeting her niece, how her life was just stolen from her. Janice has since invited the work of psychics to assist in finding Cherrie, but those efforts have also come up short in closing this case for good. Now, each year, Janice and Cherrie's friends, including Jennifer, the child who Cherrie was supposed to celebrate her birthday with the night she went missing, meet for dinner to remember Cherrie and honor her memory. But that's pretty much where the case is today. So, what happened to Cherrie Mahan? Authorities do officially consider Cherrie's disappearance an abduction versus a runaway. Despite pulling over countless vans and researching even more, no van or any vehicle for that matter has been seized in connection with Cherrie's case. And there's never been a suspect or person of interest named either. We know her trail didn't stop at Cornplanter Road, but as far as the investigation goes, this does appear to be as far as they've gotten in nearly 40 years. Some have theorized that if someone in that van took Cherrie, that maybe the mural on the side wasn't painted on, but just a sticker affixed to the van before the abduction for easy removal afterward. And as I mentioned, Janice has been working with psychics to help get answers in Cherrie's case, specifically the Vincent sisters. They theorize that 2 or 3 males from the area took her, and both the blue car and van were involved. Janice has also said that she holds out hope that Cherrie was taken and kept safe, that she's out there somewhere alive just living her life, now in her late 40s. Of course, authorities did look into Cherrie's mother and stepfather. They administered polygraphs, and in the end, they were cleared. They also looked into Cherrie's biological father, and he was also cleared. But Janice isn't convinced that he isn't connected somehow in some way. See, Cherrie's conception was a tragic one. Janice was raped when she was just 15, and later had Cherrie at age 16. Her biological father was never in Cherrie's life. And while, like I said, authorities have cleared him, Janice can't help but wonder if someone he associated with was responsible for Cherrie's disappearance, though she's never stated specifics about her theory. In the end, we don't know what happened to Cherrie Mahan, but her legacy does live on through the Have You Seen Me program. In 2010, a man named Sam Fasto spoke at a press conference and told his story of how the program directly led to his recovery after he was abducted at the age of 10. He was abducted from New Jersey in 1997. His photo was mailed out as a part of the program. He was recognized, law enforcement was called, and he was recovered from Texas in November 1998. It really is just that simple. Share the photo and hope someone sees something and says something. At the same conference, more stories of recovery were shared. 7-year-old Crystal Bundello was abducted from Pennsylvania in 1993. Residents in Riverside, California saw her photo featured as a part of the program. She was later recovered in December 1995. The list of recoveries goes on and on. According to reporting by Mercury News, by 2011, more than half of the thousands of the children featured in the program Cherrie inspired had been recovered, including 150 as a direct result of the mailers. But of course, Cherrie remains missing. Which brings me right to our call to action. Cherrie has helped bring so many children home and answers to even more families. Please take a moment to share her photo, and maybe someday she can be added to the list of Have You Seen Me success stories. There is always hope. As a reminder, Cherrie Ann Mahan was last seen on Cornplanter Road in Winfield Township, Pennsylvania on February 22, 1985. She was 8 years old at the time. She was last seen wearing Cabbage Patch Kids earmuffs, a gray coat, white leotard, blue denim skirt, blue leg warmers, and beige boots. Her ears are pierced, and she has a dog bite scar on her left arm. At the time of her disappearance, she was 4'2", weighed about 68 pounds, with brown hair and hazel eyes. As of recording this episode, Cherrie Mahan would be in her late 40s now. If you have any information on the circumstances surrounding Cherrie's disappearance, please call the Pennsylvania State Police Missing Persons Unit at 717-783-5524 or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-4PA-TIPS. But as always, thank you, I love you, and I'll talk to you next time. Voices for Justice is hosted and produced by me, Sarah Turney, and is a Voices for Justice media original. If you love what we do here, please don't forget to follow, rate, and review the show in your podcast player. It's an easy and free way to help us and help more people find these cases in need of justice. And if you're looking for more ways to support the show, we do have a Patreon page at patreon.com/voicesforjustice. Welcome to the Secret After Show. Feels like it's been a while. First after show of 2024, and let's just get into Cherrie's case. I mean, like I said at the top of the episode, Cherrie's case just pulled at my heart. Not only because I really do feel like I owe Cherrie something, considering the Have You Seen Me program helped my sister Alyssa so much, but again, you guys know I have such a soft spot for these precedent cases. I'm honestly just sick of seeing these kids and their cases create these programs while the kids feel a little left behind sometimes. And admittedly, Cherrie's case is one of the most unsatisfying cases I have ever covered. It feels like every single lead just didn't go anywhere, or if it did, the police didn't tell us. But that's not something I'm gonna let sway me from not doing an episode. I saw a need, I saw a kid who started this program and her case still needs to be solved, and I just wanted to help. Her case isn't one that tells a great story or gives you any type of satisfaction in terms of leads, tips, conclusions. But that's not why I'm in true crime. So while I get why a lot of people haven't covered this case, I just really hope that you share it. I will say that for some reason, this has been a few weeks of a lot of mediums and psychics. A lot of stuff has happened. Like I said in my research, one of the things that kept coming up were these Vincent sisters, the Vincent sisters that are psychics. And I will say that Janice, Cherrie's mom, invited them to come work the case, so more power to them. As long as a psychic is being invited and they're acting with integrity, I have no problems with that, and it seems like the police don't either. Police have certainly consulted lots of psychics, and as long as Cherrie's mom is happy, I'm happy for her. But like I said, it's more so about this pattern of psychics. If you guys are Patreon members, you might have seen that I posted never before released audio, really a whole episode, on Alyssa's case. And to me, it's pretty crazy. So I am like a cautiously optimistic skeptic when it comes to psychics and mediums. Like, I believe almost anything in this universe can be true. I believe that we know very little about the Earth and the universe as a whole. So like, who am I to say what's real and what's not? So again, just like cautious optimism, right? And this happened to be something that I totally invited into my life, that I agreed to do. I asked this person to come on the show. Let me take a step back and tell you what happened. So, what was it? July 2020, I went on a show, a reality TV podcast, actually, with Kate Casey. And she was fantastic, very, very nice. And at the end of the interview, she basically said, I want to connect you with this celebrity medium I know. His name is Jonathan Mark. I think he can really help you. And I'm game. I'm always game. Like, let's talk about it. Let's try. Why not? So I had a reading with Jonathan, and he was really nice, really sensitive, really fantastic. I didn't record that reading. That was just a personal thing that was never meant to be content. And then he was telling me more about how he worked with the police, and, you know, he gave off good vibes. So I invited him for an official interview that was supposed to air during the first season of Alyssa's podcast. It was like one of the next episodes that was supposed to come out. But then, if you guys remember the timeline, we talked in July 2020, and actually during that recorded interview that I just posted on Patreon, he says, your sister keeps saying, keep going. There's a major break in the case that's about to happen. And wouldn't you know it, a month later, less than a month later, my dad was arrested for Alyssa's murder. So I don't know, I think it was just in the spirit of New Year, keeping an open mind, and revisiting growth. I mean, I sound so different in that episode. To me, I sound like a baby. I feel like my voice has somehow gotten really deeper, and I speak really differently, and I don't exactly know why that is. But looking back, I can sense that desperation in my voice. I was in such a different spot in my life. I sound so different. And he had that amazing prediction that honestly, I didn't even remember came true until I revisited that episode for Patreon. But that's not it. That's not the only psychic connection that has come up in these last 3 weeks or so. So I do Cherrie's case that has this, heavy reliance on these psychics through her mom. Not heavy reliance, I guess I should say. I do Cherrie's case where her mom is speaking very much so to these psychics. Then I put out this Patreon episode, completely unrelated, And then this creator on TikTok called, I think it's the Balesky or the Balesky, she stitches one of my videos, and she's a medium, and she has a prediction about Alyssa. So it's just crazy. I don't know. I feel like I haven't talked about psychics. It's not something I do a lot here. And all of a sudden it just started coming up all over the place. So there is something in the air with psychics and mediums, and I don't know what it is, but they are all around me lately. Now, speaking of the new year, I do want to say Happy New Year. Thank you for coming back to the show. I always want to thank you. Like, thank you for being here. Thank you so much for coming back and still listening. But also thank you for allowing me a week off. I haven't really planned that out before. So that was nice to have a planned week off. And I will tell you that I plan to have more of those in the future. So just get ready. I will do my best to have some content for you, but my goal in 2024 is to find more peace, more balance, more peace, while still achieving some pretty hefty goals. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, in terms of what I'm doing, what I'm reading, I read Game of Thrones, which is not true crime related, and that was on purpose. I just started the series. I cannot wait for these new seasons to come out. I can't wait for George R.R. Martin's new book to come out. I am getting hungry for Game of Thrones, so I went and bought the series just to reread it and get some more context. Not very exciting, but I'm a nerd at heart. So my winter break consisted of a trip to Indiana, as I do pretty much every single year, reading Game of Thrones, cleaning my house, playing some video games, and just relaxing. And to be honest, I've had enough excitement in my life. I really have. So that was a great break for me. But let's move on to our segment of hope. And our segment of hope today is going to be very different. It's less rooted in a conclusion of a case that inspires us to share these stories and submit tips, and more of hope for the future of true crime. So if you guys remember, I featured a case, the case of Leon Laurelis, who was a man who unfortunately lost his life, and his niece, Arlene, has been his biggest advocate ever since. And Arlene has started her very own podcast to tell Leon's stories, so I really wanted to share it here. I truly believe that the future of true crime involves so many more families getting involved in telling these stories. And I've said this before, I will never argue the point that family members telling stories are the only source of information that should be out there. I think it's fair to admit that we're biased, but I think it's also fair to admit that there's a lot of fluff and just honestly bullshit in true crime when it comes to telling these stories. And I can tell you that because I used to listen and watch, consume, whatever you want to call it, every single piece of media about my sister Alyssa. And I cannot tell you how many people just kind of like make up things to fill in the blanks in a story. And those be little things, right? But they're just small untruths that, I don't know, they just don't fully represent the story. It would be small things like, people filling in what I probably did on the last day that, my sister went missing, filling in what she probably did at school, just these small untruths that aren't fully representative of the victim that's left behind. So you've heard me tell Leon's story. You might have heard it on other podcasts. It is becoming a pretty big story in true crime. But if you want to hear it from someone who actually knew Leon, I definitely encourage you to go check out Arlene's podcast. It's called Box in the Basement, and you can find it wherever you find podcasts. I do think it'd be pretty cool if everybody went over there and maybe left her a nice review, some encouraging words, just a little love. I will say that being in a more unique position of being a family member and a content creator, you have the distinct advantage of having the worst of both of those sides. You get all the criticism of being a content creator with all the criticism of being a family member. So some kind words go a long way. Again, that is Box in the Basement podcast, and you can find it wherever you find podcasts. But as always, thank you, I love you, and I'll talk to you next time.